Hi guys, welcome to episode 3 of my podcast, which I've decided to call MochiCast. I am very excited that you're here again. For today's episode, I've got a giveaway going on. I'm going to be giving away one strawberry robe. And as the podcast goes on, I will give more and more details about how you can enter to win this robe. And to be on theme, today's podcast is going to be about my strawberry robes. I wanted to talk about drop shipping today, but honestly, I've been trying to really sort my thoughts about the whole drop shipping thing. I've got a lot of things I want to say. I've had a few comments recently of people being like, oh, she's just a drop shipper. And I mean, I'm not. So it's a little frustrating, but we'll get to that in the drop shipping episode. So here's all about my strawberry robe and how I made them. I don't know what the right word is, but you'll see what I mean in a second. So I said that I started my business in the first episode of MochiCast back in January of 2019, and that is true. But that is just as far as the name MochiPan goes. Because before that, I had been working for years on other projects, on similar projects. I had tried drop shipping. I had tried making my own things and selling them. I had tried all sorts of different things. And in my time looking at like drop shipping things and seeing what kind of things that I could sell to make a profit, I stumbled across a factory that worked on these really beautiful robes. They had made robes with similar hoods, so not quite the strawberry leaf on the hood, but like similar bow style things. And I thought that was really interesting, and I reached out to them and asked them for their catalog. And they said that they were working on a new design, which was like a strawberry theme, and that they were looking for shops to sell that new design, whether that be through drop shipping or, buying wholesale or whatever, right? They were looking for people to represent that and push it to the American market. At the time, I didn't know what it looked like, but I was interested in working with them. I had purchased a few things from them before, trying to see if I could sell them locally or things like that, just to see if people would be interested. And again, this isn't a podcast about drop shipping or like how to sell things or whether I've made like morally sound decisions. I'm not necessarily saying that drop shipping is good or bad or whatever. Again, I'll get into that in the drop shipping episode, but this is just how I stumbled across the robe. So I sold a few other things in the US in different places, and I had an e-commerce class coming up where one of our big projects was basically making an online store and trying to see if you could get any sales. And I set up some of their products on the website, and I think I made maybe one sale, but it was just a short semester project, right? And I didn't really expect much to happen with it. But through that, I made a connection with this factory. And like I said, they wanted to push their products to the American market. And it just so happened that around the time that I decided to start MochiPan was around the time that they decided to really push the strawberry robe onto the market. So the robe itself existed before I started selling it, but not in the same way. The design was, in my opinion, considerably different, although I can understand how people would say it's basically the same thing. The pattern is very different, and the buttons are obviously different, the sizing is different, the material used is different, so a lot of things are very different. But looks-wise, as far as just pictures on a screen, it does look very similar. I mean, and it's obviously, it's not like I turned an orange into an apple, right? Like it's like a grapefruit to like a tangerine. Like they're different considerably, but they're still very similar. Basically, the factory was not very happy with the sales and how the American market received the product at the time. And by the time that we ended up reconnecting and kind of talking about this project and saying, oh, well, the strawberry robe didn't really do that well with a lot of the shops that we put it in. At this point, I had built up quite a good amount of customers, fans, followers, things like that. I'd built up quite an audience on MochiPan. So I decided to reach out to them and say, if you're interested, I have some ideas on how to redesign this product to make it perhaps more marketable for the American audience. And I would like to sign an exclusivity contract with you so that you don't sell the robes that we make to anybody else. And with that, I will order a considerable amount of robes as wholesale just for my business so that obviously so that the factory isn't taking like a loss, They're not just trusting some random person. they have a guarantee of sales. So at the very beginning, I had taken the original images that the factory had and used those to run an ad. It started with an Instagram post, but I got 2 sales overnight because I was thinking, oh, I'll just sell the robes again on MochiCast and it will be not a big deal, right? I'll try drop shipping 1 or 2 at the beginning and then I'll start buying wholesale and everybody's happy, right? But the product did so unexpectedly well. For me at the time, any Instagram post getting a sale was a big deal, but I think I got like 3 overnight after I posted that picture. And I decided to start running an ad with it, and that ad was the most successful thing I've ever done with my business, by far. The issue there is that the factory only had like 10 in stock, and I ended up selling through those within probably a day or 2. And then I started running the ad, and things continued to sell, and there was a miscommunication there. They had told me that there was plenty of stock, or at least I had understood that there was plenty of stock, and it turned out that there wasn't. So that's where the whole thing of reproducing the product and trying to make it better for the American market came in. Because at the time, they were just considering scrapping the robe and moving on to something else because it hadn't been selling well. So I put my listing on my shop, like on back order, so people would know that it would take a little while, with full intention to produce these robes. And at the time, I had quite a bit of my savings account, so I was able to just start producing robes immediately, and I started with 1,000. So I worked with the factory to customize a lot of different aspects of this robe, such as the fabric type used, the overall sizing, because the sizing for the original product was very small and the fabric was not as thick and plush, as well as adding the cute strawberry buttons. That is like the most custom part of it, is the strawberry buttons. We changed the type of elastic that is used in the strawberry robe, and we changed the way that like I don't know exactly what they're called, but basically like these parts, like the edges, like how they're sewn, and like the width of all those things, and just a bunch of technical details. We made the hood a double-lined hood eventually. The first pass did not have double-lined hoods, but I, for my second pass, gave it a double lining because that's what the original photos were. That's what the original product was supposed to be, at least as far as the hood goes and the lining of the hood goes. It was supposed to be double lined, but I mean, obviously factories like to cut costs, so they never double lined it. And I think that that's another reason why the product didn't do as well as they expected it to. And I'll probably get into this on my drop shipping episode, but there is a big discrepancy and a big problem with pictures that the factories have. They'll make like one really good looking product and they'll take photos of that, and then they will sell a very cheaper or a much cheaper, not as high quality product. And that's definitely a big issue. But again, I'll get into that in the drop shipping episode. But I mean, one of the main things that I wanted to solve was I didn't want people looking at a nice picture and then ordering the product to be like, oh, I mean, it's pretty much the same thing, but I'm a little disappointed, right? Like, that sucks. So I got the hood double lined, made all these changes, signed a contract with this factory to make sure that I was the only shop that would carry these robes, and went on my way to sell about 1,500, 1,600, maybe at this point 1,700 robes, which was wild. A lot of the comments that I've been seeing about my strawberry robe is that, why am I mad at other shops for copying the design, or why am I mad at drop shippers for selling the design when it isn't my design? And this honestly gets a little bit difficult and tricky for me to talk about, because I don't just want to say, oh, it's 100% my product. Obviously, the factory had most of the bones already made of this robe, and I'm not trying to take credit for that factory's work by any means. But I also don't want to discredit the amount of work that I put in to redesign the entire thing. So if I'm going to say, yes, I designed it, or no, I designed it, it's really difficult, because I think that there's a point in yes and there's a point in no, right? Obviously, I redesigned the whole thing. I made a lot of changes. I used my knowledge of the American market to make it a successful product, which is extremely valuable and very valid and important. But at the same time, I don't know if I would ever have come up with that concept for the robe on my own with nothing else to inspire that. I definitely believe that most of the credit for that goes to the factory. I definitely believe that most of the credit for this robe goes to the factory, and I have never stated otherwise. And I've made a few reels here and there about it on Instagram, but it's hard to get all of my thoughts out in 130 seconds or 90 seconds or however many seconds they give you. So that's why I'm doing this podcast, is to explain how I became the origin of the strawberry robe. Again, using words like origin and things like that are things that kind of make me a little nervous, because I don't want people to think that I'm taking credit for something that isn't mine. But at the same time, it is mine legally. I mean, there's been a contract signed, so this robe is now mine, and they are not going to reproduce the previous robe or this robe without my permission and without my funding, honestly. So basically, if you're kind of confused about this, I just want you to know that I'm not saying that I created this robe completely on my own, with my own imagination, with no outside sources or help or anything, like it just came to me one night. That's not the case with this robe. But I did redesign the robe. I did completely remake most of it. The concept was the same, but the execution was completely different. And through that, and also through the signing of a contract, the robe is now mine. So when I say MochiPan is the original strawberry robe, that's basically what I mean. It's the original factory that made them, signing a contract with me, giving me all the rights to it. So why am I angry when people copy it and drop ship it and things like that? With drop shippers, it's other factories making the robe. It's not my factory. So the quality is, I mean, it's absolute garbage. I have one of the robes. I actually ordered one out of curiosity just to see how it compared. And yeah, it's bad. I have a reel on my Instagram comparing them. It's like one of my it's one of my really long live streams though, so I totally understand if you don't want to dig through it. But I am probably going to make a new reel when robe season comes about, showing the difference between the dropship version and the current version that I have. And I mean, I really want you to take my word for it, at least right now, until you see that video, that it is so different. It is so different. It is night and day. I mean, the cost to produce my robe is already like 3 times higher than the cost for those other factories to produce their lower quality robe. So cost alone should just tell you that, yeah, it's considerably different and considerably higher quality. But obviously, don't just take my word for it. I will try to get that content uploaded very soon to show the differences. But even if you're not really interested in the fabric being a different quality, or you don't really care about the buttons, the main, most important difference that I made is the sizing. The sizes are so much bigger, so much roomier. The arms are longer. I mean, obviously, the ones made in China are made for like typical Asian sizing, which is always smaller than US sizing. And mine are US sizing going up to an extra large. And the extra large honestly fits anywhere from a large to a 3XL. It just depends on what kind of fit you want. I get angry about it because of all those things that I just mentioned. Like, the quality is so different. And for a good while, I think I was known as the origin of the strawberry robe, right? Like, I was the one running ads for it. I was the one selling a lot of them. And a lot of these dropshippers came in and basically tried to piggyback off of that success, which is common in dropshipping. It's common in sales. People see somebody doing something successful and then they come in and try to recreate that success on their own. And I understand that. Although it's frustrating, I'm not going to be like, oh, you can't sell products similar to mine. But the thing that really bothers me about it is people selling the dropship version of the robe. I mean, and I could be wrong about this, but I feel like it is actively subtracting from the credibility of my business. And what I mean by that is, people are ordering the strawberry robe. It looks pretty much the same. I mean, if you really take time to look at it, you'll see that it's very different. But I mean, again, like I said, it's not like I turned an apple into an orange or whatever, right? Like, it's the grapefruit and tangerine. Like, they look very similar. So when people get these lower quality robes, that honestly, dropshipping websites are overpricing these things. I underpriced my robe so much. This is a little bit of a rant, but bear with me. I underpriced my robe so much. I should have made it probably twice as expensive as I did, because I suffered some losses. making these robes. Like, they were very expensive to make, and I should have made them more expensive. But I wanted my shop to still be affordable, and honestly, I kind of screwed myself over that way. I'm selling my high quality, custom, like produced, beautiful plush robes for what? $79.99 at the most expensive, $72.99 usually, and then there's always some sort of sale going on. Most people have gotten their robe for like $60, maybe $55. Like come on. And I see these drop shipping websites, and I'll put like one or two here if I can figure out how to do that. Selling them for like $150. There's a website called Peanut Butter Style that sells the dropship version of this robe, and I can't guarantee that it's drop shipping. It could be wholesale, but my professional opinion is that they are drop shipping this, and it's like $138. I see a ton of things on Etsy of people drop shipping this. Again, I assume it's drop shipping. I think that that is a very fair assumption to make. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's drop shipping. And they're like anywhere from $68 at the cheapest to like, I think I've seen one all the way up to $200. So it's really frustrating because I want my brand to be known for the strawberry robe, because I'm the one that went out on a limb and took the risk and bought a whole bunch of them and redesigned a product that hadn't done well in the past, and I had no guarantee that it was going to do well this time around. I had no guarantee. I had nothing to tell me, yes, this is going to be a successful product, right? Just because I got a few sales in the first few days doesn't mean it's going to be successful. And so I'm the one putting my money behind that risk. I'm the one putting my brand and my image behind that risk. I am taking all the risk there. And because I managed to succeed, people come in and sell the dropship version. But it is very important for me to build up a brand presence, right? To build up an image so that people, when they see these robes, think, oh, that's MochiPant's robe. And I think I mentioned this somewhere. It could have been in one of the previous podcasts. But I want people to look at the things that I sell and the things that I create and the things that I design or redesign or whatever, right? The things that are in my shop and say, oh, that's a MochiPant product. And with so many people selling the dropship version of the robe, I feel like my brand presence is kind of being tested. And I don't think I had a strong brand presence to begin with. So it's kind of, that's why I say it's like actively subtracting from my business, because other people are selling this cheap, like it's literally like a $12 robe. Getting it shipped to the US makes it maybe $20, and people are selling it for $150. And I don't know how successful those shops are. Granted, like I can't see how many robes that they've sold, but it really rubs me the wrong way with the drop shipping. And it's frustrating because on the legal side of things, technically those other factories in China are not legally allowed to reproduce this same design, because the factory that I worked with had the, I don't know exactly what it is in China, but some sort of like patent or copyright, right, towards that product that they signed over to me legally. And so those robes in China shouldn't even be produced. But Chinese copyright law is incredibly hard and incredibly difficult. I think most countries' copyright law is, but from my experience, trying to fight these factories making these knockoff robes has been very hard. Luckily, from what I've heard, a lot of those factories are not producing a ton. There's still a few thousand, I think, every year being produced, but they're not producing a ton. And in the end, like I've said before, about pursuing legal action, it's just not really worth the stress right now. I don't really want to put on that kind of pressure on myself to get this situation fixed. The only times that I have tried to take somewhat legal action is when, actually, it was the website that I mentioned previously, Peanut Butter Style. I think that's what their website is. I don't really look at their website very much, but they had copied my description, which I had gotten written by a copywriter. I paid for the service. A very good writer wrote this description of this product for me. So completely custom, completely unique description, and they had just copied and pasted the whole thing onto their website. And I messaged them and I was like, you need to take that down. And they were like, send us an email with your ID and something to prove that you are from this business. and then one of our representatives will get back to you. And I was like, I'm going to file a lawsuit. Take it down. And they took it down. So at least they did that. But I mean, they're still selling the dropship robe. Those original photos of the original robe with the round white buttons, I don't own those images. I own the images of the strawberry robe with the strawberry buttons. That is a model that I hired, as a photographer that I hired, a studio that I rented time out of. I mean, I was lucky enough to get a lot of that done for free because those people were friends, at least at the time. And it was, yeah, I mean, they're my photos. There's no debating that. So I have not seen those photos being used anywhere else. I usually just see the round white button robes being sold. But if anybody sees the pictures with the strawberry buttons, the pictures of my model, the pictures in my sets, they're very distinct. If anybody sees those, please let me know, because those are my images and those definitely cannot be used. And if people are using those, I will pursue legal action. I'm not going to deal with that crap. But now I think it's good to talk about the Cozy Gemma situation a little bit. And I definitely don't want them getting any sort of publicity or anything from this. I don't want to talk about them and help them get sales, because they don't deserve it. So I'm only going to mention their name once. I just did, and that's going to be it. But basically, they made a robe that is pretty much the exact same thing that I'm selling, except they added black outlines around the strawberries, and then they changed the material. And this is another one of those things where it's the robe did exist prior to me redesigning it, but the only reason that this store popped up and is selling these things is because of the success that I had with my strawberry robes. I was known for this first. I was selling these robes first. I was first. As far as an established brand, a United States company, a formed entity, with legal filings about this product, legal copyright filings about this product filed. There's no other company that's filed them in the US, and there's no other company that's filed them in China, because they can't, because it's mine. So I was first. I mean, obviously there were a few other shops before me that sold the previous version, because that's what the factory wanted to do. But, what I mean by saying I was first is, again, legal filings, brand presence, all these things. In the legal world, I've been told by lawyers, that means that I have a precedence to sell these products, and I have priority over this product because I have all these things filed, and I have all of these contracts, and I have all of this and all of that, blah, blah, blah. So technically, they should not be able to sell something that is so close. And I wouldn't give them crap. I mean, I'd be a little uncomfortable if they were selling just the pattern on the robe with the black outlines being the only change. That would kind of suck, but I wouldn't really care, right? The thing that really ices the cake, I suppose, here is that the hood is the same concept. It is the bow hood, flagship style of that factory that I worked with. And the flagship, the most recognizable, in my opinion, part of the robe is the embroidery on the hood with the bow, the fluffy bow as the strawberries leaves. And that is the exact same, in my opinion. Yeah, again, it just gets kind of tricky because while I do have all of these copyrights and while I do hold a lot of the rights and blah, 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 all those things that I just mentioned, fighting something like that in the U.S. courts or in whatever courts, I believe that this company is registered in the U.S., but the people that it's registered to are from Israel. I don't really know how the international law would work there. I've talked to lawyers and they said that I do have a strong case and they do believe that I would win, but it's really tricky with lawsuits like this because there are so many different ways that those lawsuits can get dragged out and made longer. Drug out? What's the word? They can get extended for so many different reasons, and that obviously costs a lot of money. And then if they file this specific type of thing, then I have to file something in response to that. And each time you file something, it costs more money, sometimes $100 or more. And again, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not trying to give anybody legal advice. I'm just kind of relaying what I've been told from lawyers, like through my non-lawyer brain. So if a lawyer is watching and they're like, I'm sorry if I'm not getting it right. But yeah, I mean, it would be such a process to go after them legally and to do something about it. I don't have that money. I don't have that time. I don't want to shave any more years off of my life by stressing about like legal stuff. Eventually something else is going to come up someday, but I don't want to deal with it right now. And that's just kind of where I'm at. So my stance is 100% that company that I mentioned stole the design and they based it off of the robe that I have and not the original robe. Although even if it had been the original robe, I own the rights to that too. So yeah, I totally understand that this subject is confusing and I've probably lost a lot of you at this point. So I'm just going to give like a quick little recap to try and sum all this up, and then we will get into the giveaway. So 1, I worked with this factory before, and then 2, signed a contract to redesign the robe, have rights to the original design and the redesigned robe, and be the exclusive seller and producer of these robes with this factory. It is the original factory that made the robes. 3, I don't like it when people drop ship the robe because it feels like it's kind of tarnishing my brand's image, because maybe people don't have such a strong association with the robe and mochipan, which is something I need to work on. And so when they buy one from a dropshipping website and they get the cheaper Chinese version, they might think that my robes are also not good. And 4, a company basically took the entire design and ran with it and is like paying for a bunch of micro-influencer marketing. They also sent me some really nasty DMs. I didn't mention this part, but I basically told them like, look, I've got the copyrights to this. Like, I've got these things filed. You legally can't be selling this design, and like, let's talk about it. And they basically said, you're a loser who has no engagement on Instagram and you can go screw yourself, is basically what they told me. So, and they're still selling it, and like, whatever. I've had so many of their influencers come to me and say that they are so sorry that they're doing this to me, and that that company that shall not be named is absolutely terrible to the people that are influencing for them. So I hope that that's kind of a good recap, a TLDR, I suppose, of the robe and kind of my thoughts on people copying the design and people drop shipping it. Let's get into the fun part though, because it is almost robe season. Okay, it is almost robe season. It is June right now. July is going to happen, and then it's going to be August, and people are going to be wanting to buy those cozy things. People are going to be looking for nice gifts or, fuzzy warm things to wear around the house. I currently live in the desert, and it's hot as heck down here. But even then, sometimes during the winter, it gets cold enough to want to wear the robe. And I am so happy in the winter when I can wear my strawberry robe. I mean, I know I sound like a commercial right now, but I'm serious. Like, the robes are so freaking soft. They are so comfortable. And whenever I get to wear my robe, whenever it is robe season, I am the happiest. I already love fall. I love fall. And I love the aesthetic. I love the colors. I love all of this stuff. I love drinking tea, which you can do all year long, but it feels better in fall for me. Robe season is my favorite time of the year, and it is summer right now, but almost robe season. So I think it's a good time to do a giveaway. I will leave the giveaway open for 2 weeks because I want people to have enough time to enter. Again, here's the robe. This is the robe that you will be getting. It is a mochipan. I don't know if you can read that, but it's a mochipan robe. It is the one with the nice strawberry buttons. It's the best robe ever. This giveaway is open internationally. If it is to the US or Canada, it'll probably be this one right down here that I ship out. If it is somewhere else in the world, I will ship it out from my warehouse in China. So yeah, anybody can enter. Now let's get down to what you got to do. First, you have to be subscribed to my YouTube channel and you have to be following my Instagram account. Second, you got to comment down below in this video telling me what you would do with the robe Or if you can't think of anything robe related, give me an idea for a future video or podcast subject. That would be perfect. So I don't know when I'm going to have this video edited. I don't know when it's going to be finished, but from the date that it is posted until 2 weeks from then, this contest will be open, and I will have all of the rules in a written format down below in the description. And if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask me them. Again, I know that this whole podcast is a little bit confusing, and I tried my best to explain it, but I'm not always the best at explaining things. And that goes for any subject that I talk about. If you guys have any questions about anything that I talk about, feel free to ask me those questions, because one of the most important things to me is transparency in a business, and I don't want people not knowing like what I stand for. So if you have any questions or you weren't really sure on part of it, just let me know and I will answer it for you, either in the form of a comment, like replying to your comment, or maybe I'll even make it a whole podcast episode. We'll see. I also want to take a little moment here to talk about the other robes that I have. The peach, the pineapple, and the blueberry. They have been momentarily removed from my website just so I can make room for this transition that I'm doing. And then they will be reposted when I feel like the project has been revamped enough to be worth posting. I kind of jumped the gun the last time I did it, and I don't think that allowed the project to be successful. So this time around, hopefully it will be. And for anybody who has pre-ordered the robes, don't worry, they're not gone. I haven't just run off with your money. You can always ask me for an update, or if you want a refund, you can get a refund. But for anybody who hasn't asked for a refund yet, you are automatically grandfathered into the next update for those products. And I mean, if it doesn't work this time, then it's just not meant to be. But I'm going to try my best to get those robes produced. So unfortunately, I don't have a bank full of savings anymore to just make them. But it is my dream to have my fruit robe line, my fruit cardigan line, and then my dresses and all these new things that I'm doing with like mushrooms and strawberries. So yeah, I'm really excited about the future. I hope you guys are too. Thank you guys again so much for watching, and I hope you enter the giveaway. Good luck, and I will see you next time.